The Middle East has a long history of supernatural occurrences, from giants to jinn, to fallen angels and other mysteries. Here are some supernatural phenomena that's taken place within the region of Afghanistan. We'll start with the story of the Kandahar giant. In 2016, L.A. Marzulli interviewed a military contractor who identified only as Mr. K, who claimed to be present when a giant was killed in the Kandahar region of Afghanistan. This occurrence took place during Operation Enduring Freedom in 2002, when a military squad went missing in a cave system in the Kandahar province. A special forces team was sent to locate the missing squadron. Mr. K said while searching through the cave system, a 13-foot-tall, red-haired giant with 6 fingers and 2 sets of teeth came out with a spear and killed one of the special forces soldiers. This caused the rest of them to lay down sustained gunfire for 30 seconds, in which the giant finally fell to the ground. After radioing in the incident, the military came, took the corpse of the giant away, and it was never heard of again. An interesting theory has arisen because of this in ties with the Moab bomb, or the mother of all bombs. In 2017, the US military dropped its largest conventional non-nuclear bomb for the first time in combat on Afghanistan's eastern province of Nangarhar. The target was said to be a network of tunnels operated by the Islamic State in the Akin district. But this has led some people to theorize that such a large weapon was needed because it was being used against non-human forces, or the giants. If Mr. K's testimony of the 13-foot tall giant in Kandahar is true, then it would line up with 2 Samuel 21:20, which says yet again there was war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number, and he was also born to the giant. Many other Bible verses in reference to giants before and after the flood. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. But without a doubt, Earth has a supernatural history, which means it also has a supernatural present and future. And some supernatural entities that are tied to the Middle East and the region of Afghanistan are what's known as Jinn. Jinn are generally invisible but can take the form of any type of body: animals, snakes, scorpions, lizards, and even humans. It's also believed that they engaged in sexual affairs with human and produced offspring, which is something very similar to what we hear in Genesis 6:4, with the fallen ones or the fallen angels mating with earth women and creating giants. So really, Jinn are a type of shape-shifting type of entity, something very similar to the principalities and powers and the fallen ones mentioned in the Bible, Old and New Testament. Arab poet Kuthir Azza from the Umayyad period is quoted as saying, "One day a man on a horseback came toward me until he was next to me. I looked at him. He was bizarre, a man made of brass. He said to me, 'Recite some poetry.' Then he recited poetry to me. I said, 'Who are you?' He said, 'I am your double from the Jinn.' That is how I started reciting poetry." And some people actually believe that the language used in Afghanistan was taught to them by the Jinn. According to Islamic history, Afghan was the son of the prophet Suleiman, or Solomon, and the Quran says that the prophet Solomon could speak to birds, insects, animals, and jinns as he had knowledge of their language. In the Quran, verse 27:16, it says, "O people, we have been taught the language of birds and been given everything we need. This is indeed a great privilege." Islam teaches that Afghan, the son of Solomon, at a very young age wanted to learn the language of the jinns, and he expressed this desire to his father. This was when his father taught him the language of the jinns, and they named it the language Pashto. Historians believe that the descendants of Afghans were named Afghanis or Pashtuns, and their language is known as Pashto. Between fallen angels, their fallen offspring, principalities and powers, and even angelic encounters, these are what people are seeing within that region, and it's tied right to the Bible. And some New Testament biblical proofs of this is in Acts 12:15, talking about Peter being at the door when he should have been in prison. This was the disciples' response, but they said to her, "You were beside yourself," yet she kept insisting that it was so. So they said, "It is his angel," clearly demonstrating that they were having angelic encounters. Hebrews 13:2 also says, "Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing, some have unwittingly entertained angels." Along with the verses about other principalities and demonic encounters and things like this, just proves that within the earth, there is supernatural encounters going on between a realm we don't fully understand and our physical realm. And more proof of this is found within the testimonies of soldiers who spent time in Afghanistan and encountered strange supernatural occurrences. Here's a testimony from one soldier. So we watched this quote person for about 3 hours who just stands there, motionless, with its back to us. You could put optics on it and see that it was a person, an adult male, average height and build. Best part was we borrowed a thermal monocular and this guy didn't even register. 0 heat signature. Then randomly just poof and gone. One of the random privates with us spent the next 6 weeks telling everyone that we saw a ghost. This reminds me of Matthew 14:26, which says, "And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, 'It is a ghost,' and they cried out of fear." Once again showing that there was supernatural occurrences going on in the New Testament days as well. Here's another testimony from a soldier from Afghanistan. Then the thing turned and looked right at me with eyes so bright my night vision started to burn out, meaning that it was so bright it was burning the system, usually done by something really bright like the sun. So that freaked me out and I pulled my night vision goggles off. And those eyes were neon red blood red and bright as the sun. So this freaked me out and I pulled my machine gun up and put the thermal optic on it. And those eyes were so hot that it started to burn out that optic as well. But his body was so cold that he stood out from the background, which is really weird. I slowly got my gun ready and then the eyes moved like he cocked his head at me and turned and walked off and was gone. I didn't say a word of this while we were there or to anyone in the army since we've gotten back. In Kabul, Afghanistan, at Observation Post Rock, it was an observation post that was known for strange voices, radio static, and the creeping fear of being watched. Multiple soldiers who spent time at this observation post had similar experiences with strange lights at night, whispers in the darkness, mysterious radio static, and a sudden chill in a summer breeze, and reoccurring whiffs of terrible smells. The post and its surrounding area were considered cursed by residents of the surrounding villages, and in the months and years that passed, buried human bones were discovered at the rock outpost that were said in some cases to have been hundreds of years old. The earth has a supernatural history. We see it in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, as well as in coming last days prophecies. In Revelation 9:7-11, we hear of locusts that come out of the pit, out of the bottomless pit, that have women's hair and teeth like lion's teeth and breastplates like iron, wings that are thundering like horses and chariots. And they have a king over them, the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon and in Greek is Apollyon, that is destroyer. We also have another New Testament reference to supernatural occurrences going on in Acts 16. And in 16-19, we hear of a slave girl who was possessed with a spirit of divination and who brought the masters much profit by fortune telling. This girl would follow Paul and those with him and cried out, saying, "These men are the servants of the Most High God, who proclaim to us the way of salvation," and she did this for many days. But Paul, greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her," and he came out of her that very hour. We see supernatural occurrences all throughout Earth's history, through different cultures, through religious texts, and the Bible proves it in Old Testament and New Testament, as well as coming prophecies that will take place. Understanding that the earth was, is, and will be supernatural is a good understanding to have as we move forward into the world and see what will come upon us within the last days. And it's important to know that while these supernatural occurrences have and will take place, that there's one who has power over all of these forces, and that's Jesus Christ. And it tells us in Ephesians 1:18-22, "The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling, what are the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints, and what is the exceeding greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his mighty power, which he worked in Christ when he raised him from the dead, and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly places, far above all principality and power and might and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this age, but also in that which is to come." So we see here that Jesus has the name, the power over all principality, all power and authority for all history, always has, always will, and his name alone is above all power and authority. So he's the one you need to trust in these last days and in the days we're moving forward in, because he has the power over all this. So as we see that Afghanistan, the Middle East, all over the world, there's a history of supernatural occurrences. We see it through their culture, we see it through many different things, and the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, backs it up fully, we can know that if we're following Jesus Christ, he has the power over all this, and we can trust him in the coming days and whatever comes down the line, because he's seated far above all power and authority, and his name alone is above all these authorities. Let me know what you think in the comments below about Afghanistan and its supernatural history, anything I may have left out, as well as any other cultures around the world that have a tie to supernatural events within their beliefs, their culture, their religious texts, because the Bible really proves it to be true that these things went on, go on, will go on, and that there's one who has all authority and all power over all this, always has, always will, and that's Jesus Christ, and that's extremely important to know and to remember as we head into the days we head into. Thanks for watching, and God bless.